Okay, let's do it.
And we already are live, so it has been done. It has been done to you. Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Depressed-us with me, Zane Simon, and my co-host, Phil McKenzie. And filling in for Connor Rebish this week, Victor Rodriguez, who everybody's familiar with if you've been watching any of our MMANation.com videos. And we are here to, it's a non-UFC week, so we're here to make amends and pay our penance and watch some terrible MMA if we can. We've already been riddled with technical issues, so if shit fucks up, goes haywire, we burn the whole thing, somebody catches on fire, then that is just what it is. But we're trying for you. We want to bring something to all of you. This week, we are going to be watching our good-bad fight, Palelei versus Nikita Krylov, an all-time classic that we've been waiting to get to for quite a while. And followed by Damian Maia versus Dan Miller, our bad fight. And then the coup de grace, the peak of the mountain, as it were, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira versus Rashad Evans, Lil Nog versus Rashad. One of the all-time terrible fights out there. So, Vic, it's your first time. It's your second time on the show, right? Now,
yes, sir. That's right.
What do you think of the lineup?
I do remember regretting a lot of these, sitting through a lot of these fights, especially the Evans versus Nogueira fight, since that one, unfortunately, I had to cough up a little pay-per-view money to make that happen. So, but that's just what it is when you're watching fights. You're investing time and energy and sometimes money, and you're not always going to get what you think is going to happen on paper.
Phil, can you hear me? Are you excited for all of this? Because I think a baseline level of initial excitement is always good for us to turn it.
I am excited for Palelei Krylov. Like that is an all-time great shitty fight. That's got to be maybe one of the top 5 terrible shitty MMA fights. Good, bad. We haven't watched Fry Takayama, which is probably the Michelangelo's David of bad MMA fights. but Palelei Krylov, anyone who's seen that, it's one of the ones where very few of our shitty fights that we watch have a finish in, because that automatically kind of elevates a fight above a certain level. It's so great. It's so good that even finish in it doesn't means it's still right for us.
If Frank Mir versus Mirko Cro Cop was the hand turkey, this is the fully fledged, beautifully drawn, watercolor of the turkey in the deep woods painting.
This was painted by Bob Ross with a pretty little tree in the back.
Yeah. This is the Bob Ross turkey, where it's a lovely, much higher level of god-awful fight that leads to a finish. So on that note, we should just dive right in. Like I say, we're going to do Palelei Krylov first, and then Maia Miller, and then Nogueira Evans. And as always, we're watching all these on Fight Pass. We're just using the Fight Pass versions of the fight. If you want to follow along with us, we will count you down into the beginning of the video, which we're starting all these just right at the beginning. You don't have to sync up. You don't have to worry about any of that. We'll count you down into the video, and then we'll try to tell you when we're starting round 1, just in case you're watching it through other media and all that, and you want to, you're using another source. So that's how we're doing it. Everybody go out, get everything synced up if you're doing this at home or whatever. I don't know. Just listen along, and we're going to get this thing started. So let's start Palelei versus Krylov in 3, 2, 1, go.
I'd like to say, I don't know about you guys, but my suggested next fight, you get the little one in the corner, was like, it was Rosholt Copeland.
Oh,
Like,
God.
wow, your algorithms for like selecting who wants to watch fights have gotten some pretty fucked up people feeding things into them.
Yeah, somebody
Yes.
threw Griffin Coleman at me the other day. And I was
Nice.
just like, oh, God. Oh, suppose. If I have to.
Yeah, whoever's running Fight Pass now, they have to be aware of this, of what we're doing here right now. There's no way they can't know.
We should really petition. I don't know who's running the show over there anymore. We should petition them to create like a special library section.
Yeah.
We should. Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Massive.
Oh, Krylov looks. He looks so oily here. Like this is the this is before that point where he took like a year off and then came back and was jacked as fuck. And here he just looks like an oily teenager.
No, he probably was.
Yeah, he's basically a middleweight in this fight. Like, and was coming off like some of the fucking there's a reason why he was such a meme, because he fought just the worst competition before. Like,
he lost to like the
before
same
coming to the UFC
3 times by submission. It wasn't on his. That was part of the. There was like some controversy with that because he was brought in with this record that looked really stellar, and then it turned out that he lost his last fight before getting to the UFC, but nobody had recorded it. It hadn't been up on any websites or anything.
Oh.
And so after he signed the contract, suddenly it appeared on all the websites that he'd been losing all these fights. That he'd been losing fights too.
Oh, I had no idea. So these were like off-record fights, so they were never part of his official.
Well, I mean, when you're fighting over in like Ukraine or Eastern Europe, there's a lot. Not only is there a lot of stuff that just doesn't get recorded and that nobody keeps very good track of, but there's also a lot of pseudo MMA. There's pancration. There's kick jitsu.
Yeah.
There's hand-to-hand combat. There's like all these variations. There's full contact sambo. There's all these variations that are basically MMA, but you never know. Like guys either have a ton of wins or losses in other bouts that are almost exactly like MMA that aren't recorded.
Mm-hmm. No, it can't be as bad as the Chinese scene. I mean, was it?
No.
I'm trying to remember which of the Chinese guys the UFC brought in. I think it was Tuishun, who I guess had he claimed he had about 10 or 12 fights that were all wins that were not recorded officially.
Oh yeah, Chinese MMA.
I don't mean to cast aspersions on his character, but it's like, damn, how can I believe that? How do I know you're not tucking away a few losses there? And who were you fighting? Because by the time he made it to the UFC, he didn't look like that world beater that a lot of people thought he could have been. I don't know.
No, I'd be shocked if we see anybody come off the Chinese circuit right now that it looks like an elite high-level fighter on the international circuit.
No, it's going to have to be like Arjan Bular. And this is like I remember years ago when we talked about this, the Ultimate Fighter India, Ultimate Fighter.
I can't hear this story and see Palelei walking out with the extra Hulk hand raised above his head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's good.
You know what's funny? I just realized that the ref for this one was Al Vickers, the glory ref that a lot of people hate. So I don't know if that adds to some of this as far as just the strange level of why is all this happening right now type thing.
This is like the beta test period for the UFC's recent heavyweight plunge where they've gone out and signed every dude who weighs more than 250 pounds on the market.
Yeah.
Lately, this is like them beta testing that idea where they're like, I guess we'll just get a few weirdos. Can we get some big jairdos?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's worked out for filling out light heavyweight. I mean, you realize Krylov, he eventually dropped. Jared Cannonier, help me out here. There's like at least 2 or 3 more that had that same thing. Came in as heavyweight, they did some weird shit, and then they just dropped.
They've started building up the light heavyweight division the same way now, where they're literally just signing anyone who fights at 205 pounds. At some point, they finally got that message.
Yeah.
That you actually just have
I
to
think
go
they've
get
got
people. You can't wait for them to get like a 10-0 record.
Yeah.
Just terrible. But yeah, I mean they've managed to gather a few like diamonds in the rough out of both the heavyweight and the light heavyweight.
Oh yeah,
kind of work. But I mean, the thing is about these divisions is that someone's got to win. If you chuck each other and you do it enough times, someone will inevitably come out of the end of it with a winning streak. And like you get these weird guys that sometimes pop up, and you'd be like, oh yeah, like who's that? Like the giant, like that giant fat Machida baby that knocked out Timothy Johnson.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I don't see that coming at all.
And his name is Junior. Junior Albini.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was something they were really resistant to doing for a half decade. They were just like, no, let's only get established good veterans who we know can have fought at an elite level before. It's like, there's only so many Soa Paleleis out there you can sign. And even that was not necessarily the best idea that they ever had. At some point,
and they basically realized that, the development level in the UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight division is so, by its necessity, just so vastly different from the regionals. You just have to build these guys from the ground up by just throwing them against each other again and again and just making them learn, like, this is what a half professional athlete who's approximately on your level is going to be like. This is the only way you can learn to fight these guys on the local regional circuit. You have to fight them here. Otherwise, you will just be knocking out like dudes.
Yeah. This is already making me a little sad, though, that Krylov has come and gone from our UFC entertainment so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I like these dudes. Like they have interesting stories. They're kind of fun to watch. Like I like Soa Palelei's Top Game. And Krylov is like, he's an awesome action fighter now.
He is. And it's too bad too, because at light heavyweight regionally, he really is just going to be destroying complete cans for the next decade. Like you saw his first. Oh God. He is so...
Yeah, this fight.
They look so mad. I think that's the thing that really makes this fight, is both Palelei and Krylov look so mad to start. Oh God. It's just it's the weirdest style clash too, where it is a style clash. Palelei ground and pound, Krylov with his karate, but it's a style clash. It's a complete style clash of physical ability too, where you have like Krylov, the bouncy action fighter who just wants to burn through all of his energy in 2 minutes, and then Palelei, who is literally not capable of doing anything fast or burning through anything quickly ever. This is Palelei fighting at like light speed for him right now.
Yeah. He has like about of gas. Like, I mean, remember he when he failed to knock out Bigfoot Silver, and you're just that round ends, you're just like, holy shit, he's getting knocked out by Bigfoot Silver in like
2016.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, luckily this edition of Krylov is you can't stank either.
He's still going for that armbar. Palelei is like with knees on his head, and he's still going for that armbar.
Listen, if you drill hard, if you really work hard to perfect a certain technique, you're going to doggedly go for it no matter what.
You're saying that Krylov is actually Ronda Rousey?
No, I'm saying that he really wanted to make sure that he kicked off whatever it is he learned that Monday previous to the fight. and show it off. But nah.
Oh.
Oh, Jesus.
Like the way
Pre-Reebok.
he's. Ah, that was awesome. That mount escape. It was just sort of like kind of stand up and then run away from underneath him.
The Krylov just going ham on Palelei first chance he gets.
Mm.
Oh,
Oh, Jesus.
this fight is, like I said, both these guys, they seem like they're just fighting so angry. Like, I don't think there's any animosity between them, but Krylov very much fought only angry at this point, I think. And Palelei was like, you're going to be mad at me? Oh, fuck it. I'm coming for you. Just.
I think this match was squarely made based off the fact that both of them were really behind on their rent. They really wanted to make sure that they didn't. Just look at this shit.
This is a rent payments to make kind of fight. Krylov going for the standing Kimura.
Yeah. He doesn't.
Palelei's arms are as big as all of Krylov's body.
Oh God.
Oh God.
And I'm looking at Krylov's sideburns here. Like, for some reason, it's distracting me. I can't really focus on much else.
He has those sweet Elvis sideburns. Those things are awesome.
Yeah, they're not nearly as glorious as they would be. Like, they became pretty impressive at some point, I think.
They did. I almost wonder if they kept him in the UFC, if we would have had this evolution of like this whole like Krylov sort of hair glam squad, where they all just like their hair just kept slowly evolving bigger and bigger. Because remember the guy who had like the super swooped hair?
Oh, the flock of seagulls. Oh, yeah. That guy is amazing.
And so, like, had he had another 5 years, would he be fighting with like these huge mutton chops and like, they'd be like like an anime villain squad?
What was that?
It's an inverse triangle from the bottom.
It was crucifix, like just. I don't know what it was, like, or some kind of strange cradle.
It's like he was trying to use, like the goat hook escape from a triangle choke, using his legs to pry himself out, but it just
No. Oh man. And okay, so we didn't call the beginning of round one, but we're at the end of round one. That doesn't help anyone, but
no.
Oh, this fight.
So basically, we're now at the point where they're both totally exhausted, but is a professional fighter, and at this point, just sort of is still basically enthusiastic, very
Palelei
tough.
Looks just like dumbstruck that he's had to work this hard. It's just like, what the hell did I just do?
But I got to give him bonus points. That belly jiggle on his way back as he was walking to his corner, that was delicious.
Yeah, he's got that weird body shape where it would probably be physically impossible for him to not have any jiggle. Like, his frame is so huge.
Yeah.
It's not like he's not he's not well muscled or reasonably fit. It's just his frame is ridiculously outsized.
Yeah, I remember Soa fighting in other fights prior to this, and it just even then, I'm not going to say that he was necessarily, like he wasn't, like some future Hall of Famer in those fights, but Jesus, none of them ever looked this bad. I don't think he's looked bad after that. None of his UFC performances looked anywhere near as terrible as this either. So
this may be the first person who just had zero physical intimidation of him, of somebody that absurdly big.
It's probably either between him and I'm sorry.
The thing is that like Krylov is just really talented. It's incredibly dumb to be saying this, but he is surviving on instinct against, and and he's clearly been taught taught like he was, like he was a featherweight. He's been taught to grapple like a featherweight, and he's managing to survive because like Soa Palelei is very good at doing one thing. He's very good at a wrestler. When he gets the takedown, he passes to mount and he pounds people out, and he's very, very good at that. And like Krylov is just naturally super tough and super aggressive, and like, he's just forcing himself out of weird situations with just like,
it's all
nothing
will.
else. Nothing else.
Yeah, there's nothing but will and
Yeah.
instinct going on here.
Oh God. Oh God. Another weird armbar attempt. Ugh. It kind of reminds me of the time that Daniel Cormier fought Palelei in Australia, choked him out, and then he flew back to California, I think it was, or he had a Strikeforce fight like a week and a half or 2 weeks later, and he won that one too. Well, he was on that crazy run and that weird period back. What was that, like 2010-ish? I want to say.
Yeah. I mean, like, to all intents and purposes, this is the first person Krylov has ever fought.
Yeah.
He's just been able to win by doing whatever against whoever he's fought before. Now he's just kind of trying to do whatever.
His takedown defense is amazingly terrible. It's
wow.
It's great. It's awesome everywhere, this fight thing. Like, look at those punches.
It's like if Krylov. It's like if you took one of Nate Marquardt's Tekken combos and you tried to do it on rollerblade. That's what Nikita Krylov just tried to do.
Oh Jesus! Look at Krylov with look at this, the kicks. And the other thing about Palelei is you look at his takedowns against the cage. The fact that he lands them, but he's not able to do much with them. And it's like Krylov is still keeping the overhook. Like, well, what was the point of all that? Like, now you're at a worse stalemate than where you were prior to. So what are we even accomplishing here? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, like, exhaustion is clearly hurting way less than any of these punches are for either man.
Yeah, they got that. That pain you get in your left side when you're not breathing right as you run. That's what's going on right now with these two. They're feeling that, but in their soul.
Well, it's just such a thing too of like, that wheel kick was glorious.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's a thing too of like Krylov. That this is like obvious signs that Krylov is the kind of person who would just windmill into infinity if he could. Like, there's no point of exhaustion at which he will ever stop trying to just like, come after you with whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a backhand, but I don't know if I'm far. I don't know how far. If I'm, I might be a few seconds ahead of you guys. But there's a flurry of punches that turns in what Krylov goes into a backhand punch that he kind of threw just to throw it, which pretty much like all the stuff that he's doing at this point. Oh Jesus! Now they're just hugging each other like they're at an Uzbeki funeral.
Yeah, I'm at about 5 seconds from the end now. So
okay,
of round 2.
Yeah, we're at about the same point.
Yeah, we should all be reasonably the same.
If Fight Pass has died.
Oh, has it?
Connection.
Right. No, they're sparing you. They're sparing you an ignoble death.
I'm gonna pause you at the end. Or I'm gonna pause at the end of round 2 before round 3 starts, and I'll tell everyone. So everybody pause right at the end of round, or beginning of round 3, if possible. I'll tell you when I do, so Vic and I can hopefully be synced up.
So we're pausing. Are we starting at the start of round 3?
Oh, that's right. We have a countdown timer. So starting at the start of round 3, or I can just pause now. 5:45. Everybody find 5:45 out of 25:14.
Oh goddamn! I keep forgetting the fucking backwards timer.
Yep. Everybody at 5:45 left.
Yep.
You there?
Oh shit. The hell was
No.
that? Okay. Now I'm there.
Okay. Starting again in 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, and you get Palelei immediately. Cut to Palelei gasping for air. Just.
Uh-huh.
I mean, all credit to him for going back out and winning this fight, because at no point when he's in his corner on the fence does he ever look, or in between rounds, does he ever look like he wants to do this? Like, after round 1, he's basically just like, what the fuck am I doing here? This sucks.
Like the wacky waving inflatable arm playing tube man striking against the fence. It's more like, oh man, you just keep doing this. I just want to rest for a bit.
It's like even everyone involved is reconsidering decisions that they made prior to this. Even the ref. Like, you just look at the ref's body language. Seriously, take your eyes off the fighters for 1 second, and watch him when he comes in a frame. Oh boy, here we go.
Come on, Krylov, you can do it. You can get this takedown.
Nope. No, we can't.
Oh,
He's just hugging his ankle.
I love the way Palelei just pries him off and he just flops down. Like, yeah, I'm giving up this underhook, man.
Got this ankle. I'm taking like the scene in The Jerk where Steve Martin just starts taking stuff with him as he's leaving the house. Like, I need this lamp. I need this ankle. I need this ankle here.
You know what? I'm a big fan of the far ankle grab, but I mean, oh god, it's one of those things where
like,
it was
Palelei seriously could have just sat on Krylov there, where he, like when you were fighting when you were like 8 years old with like a sibling or a friend or something, and you just sat on them on that.
Yeah. Did the ref?
Krylov now with his head in his hand. Yeah. Not even like the I'm really hurt, but just the like what a mistake this was. What a mistake I've made. Oh god.
Oh man. Like,
I mean, I love that Paleilei's first reaction afterwards is to like, what the fuck? Like, why the hell did I do that fight? Why did I take that?
Did the ref kick his hand as he was stopping the fight? Did I see that correctly?
I don't know. I'm not rewinding.
I know that's right. I'm not going back to that. This is already, you guys are already taxing my patience enough with this fucking bullshit. I'm not doing that much.
That highlight of Palelei getting hit and like it's just the most like face pressed against a window.
I gotta hand it to him, man, though. The UFC's post-production team is so good at picking out, really making certain moments of the fight look so good that you'd forget almost a year and a half later, or a couple of months down the line, how horrible a fight truly was. You're like, damn, he did land that one hand, though. Like, yeah, nah, it wasn't a fight full of that. It wasn't 15 minutes of that you saw. It was no.
So it does actually show below this. You may also like Jared Rosholt versus Josh Copeland.
Yeah, they know their audience.
Yeah, see, that was the one That's the for some reason, like, there is some like sick underground.
Yeah, they've got an algorithm working. Like, you like trash? Here's some more trash for you.
Just people who like maybe there's just like a bunch of fetish dudes that like sweaty jiggling. That's what they've got their Fight Pass subscriptions for. Like,
Phil, you raise a great point, because I'll tell you something. I navigate a horrible undercurrent of the internet. I don't doubt that that's a thing. Probably costs less than than any site that you could deliberately build to have that fetish satisfied. So yeah, I think he did kick the hand. Now that I'm seeing the replay thing going.
Oh Lord.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a thing that happened.
And then for all your sins, you have to talk to Joe Rogan afterward.
Yeah, that's always one of the worst parts of these kind of heavyweight fights is the guy who's just like trying not to die afterwards and trying to get his breath back whilst Rogan interviews him. He seems like just such a genuine nice dude, Like
I
I
love
was,
how
I was
entirely
kind of
mad.
sad to see him.
How mad Palelei keeps looking. Like it just every part of this from moment one has just felt. He looked like he just hates this fight and everything about what he had to do.
Mm.
To him for being absolutely dead on his feet and getting one of the saddest exhaustion TKOs I've ever seen. But like he finished him. Like I would have expected he was going to finish the guy in that round. Like after you'd watched round 2.
No. Oh. Yeah, it was a nice ref step in. He actually put his leg into Palelei's punch, so Palelei punched his leg and then kicked across him. Okay.
Innovative.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a fight I have no recollection of. So I'm trusting this to be a fine example of K1 Maia at his most K1, other than getting knocked out by Nate Marquardt. But
oh, God damn, that's cold. Holy shit.
So let's go Damian Maia, Dan Miller, UFC 109, jump straight in, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, I have no memory of this fight, so
yeah, I just remember Maia runs a bland functional kickboxing clinic on Dan Miller, and that's it.
My hope. I figured one of the best ways to get a good boring fight that we hadn't thought of right away, because obviously there's any endless variations of two people circle each other from like 2 weekends ago that we could go to. But I wanted to get a really good, like, 2 grapplers not grappling fight in here. I could, and at some point we'll have to go back to Sergio Moraes versus Davi Ramos, obviously, because that's one of the best recent examples. But something a little older seemed like the right way to go.
Like the people who are showing like Miller getting his fucked up guillotines on people and doing his incredible Maia grappling things and like get ready for one of the most thrilling grappling matchups you're going to see in the UFC. Nope. No.
There should be I would actually be in favor of a rule where like you get a round if you have 2 guys who have a jiu-jitsu black belt, you get a round of kickboxing. And then after that, like the ref actually just resets you on the mats if you start kickboxing too much, rather than resetting you on the feet.
Yep.
How much is too much? That's the question.
Like you get 30 seconds at the start of round 2, and if you haven't taken the guy down by that time or attempted a takedown in that time, then the ref just like sits you down and starts you in guard.
Okay, so this would be a reverse Elite XC solution, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay, I guess.
Ah, Jesus.
Hey, there's Molly.
This is one of those fights where maybe we'll wait for obviously Jim in the corner. But yeah, I wonder what. So did Dan retire? I mean, I'm assuming.
Dan Miller, I don't know if he officially retired at any point. Fought in a long time. I remember after the complications with his son and everything, and getting the surgery, I think he and his brother started getting more dedicated into building and growing their school, their academy up in Jersey. And I think that's been more or less his primary focus. I think he's been kind of hanging on to that more than Jim. But I don't remember any sort of official statement.
I'll see if he's in my on my roster as in the inactive section or in the or if he's just not on it at all. Because usually if a guy has given any indication that they've actually retired, I'll take them off the list. But if they haven't, I just put them in a purgatory section forever. Yeah, at some point he actually did retire. Looks like.
Yeah, so a lot of people have some criticism of like Maia's K1 era and like fights like this one. This one in particular, I think, but I always feel like it was a really good move. It was a real clever idea.
Oh yeah.
Maia,
I mean,
I don't think Maia could have learned how to learn footwork in the way that he does if he just focused on his wrestling and his grappling goal.
Wow, Maia looks so mad. He looks so mean. This is like he's got his Diaz, his mean mug face on here. The Diaz mean mug going. I don't think I've ever seen Maia look that mean.
Yeah, and he wasn't even cutting to 170 back then. Oh, there's Dorea. Yeah, that explains a lot of the focus with the striking.
I mean, there is something positive to be said about very good grapplers going out in fights and just saying, just get round on your feet. Just stand up, strike, get time. You're not against somebody who's in a really dangerous knockout puncher. Just try it out. I'm all for it, but that doesn't mean that you then you avoid criticism for having a terrible fight in which the elite grappler, tries to kickbox the whole time.
You know, I know that when we discussed what fights to pick, I kind of remember this being, yeah, sure, the K1 Maia, you know, the bad kickboxing thing that we. But I'm now getting sort of a hunch that maybe because of the benefit of hindsight, I might not hate this as much as I would have originally thought.
Well, that's always good. That's one of the things that we get to experience. Sometimes
I mean, it's not from what I can remember. It's not bad kickboxing. Like it's fine. Things that are kind of right and enough to serve. It's basically it's a lot like, I suspect it's going to be a lot like Phil Davis, Vinny Magalhaes.
Oh
God, yeah.
That is actually better than you remember it, because we
oh, that's right,
we rewatched that one as well, because it's just like, because Phil Davis does fine in it. He's just a better striker. And you know, when he's not fighting someone who can kind of disintegrate his striking game, he's like, oh yeah, he's all right.
Seeing this like bouncy, angry Maia though is just a little weird to me. Like compared to the like older, calm Maia, he's very much rocking the UFC attitude of the era. You know, this 2010 kind of.
He must have come out to Lincoln Park, right?
Yeah,
he's
got. Got that side of him, which, I mean, Lincoln Park is the lightest side of that side, but you know.
And there's Shondell.
Lincoln Park is always the default option if, like, some Brazilian guy, some Brazilian martial artist type, and they're like, oh yeah, what would you like to walk out to? And it's obviously the times when they're like, I just don't give a shit. And then they'll just be like, all right, you're getting Lincoln Park then. That's why you've got like guys like Maia and Machida and so on. They're always coming out to like numb. It seems like the most inappropriate thing imaginable.
Yeah, and it's funny because they never move past that second album. It's like they just stayed there. I don't know. There's something about that period of time that they want to recapture, I suppose. I don't know.
I just love the fact that, you know, when someone comes out to paper cut, that's how you know they're a true martial artist who only focuses on their art.
Yeah.
A couple of nice left hands for Maia, and he's otherwise swarming in with the kind of defense you'd expect from an elite grappler.
You know, Maia's feints actually look a lot better than I remember. And he's using essentially his striking to work in and try to get the double leg. Good luck with that, though. That's not really looking like that's going to happen right now.
The idea of Damian Maia not being able to get Dan Miller down is an interesting idea that I hadn't considered about this fight.
Right. I mean, you have to also remember Maia was either a judo, either brown or black belt at that time, as well as being a jiu-jitsu black belt. So he didn't really focus on his wrestling as much. Or he wasn't as good a wrestler at that time as he is now, obviously. Like the absolute, just the straight wrestling and using all the functions that come with that, that's not something he picked up until later.
When was his Chael Sonnen fight? Because that was like the first one where people were kind of talking about.
Well, that was more of a defensive thing, and I remember that was a while before this, I think. Let me just check that one right quick, because I know that ended mostly him countering the takedown and ending up with what was it? He had double overhooks, and he used like a judo sweep to end up with on top of Sana, and then he rolled back with a
He
triangle.
had like a lateral drop on him, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, it's still like, for a guy that we now hail as like one of the secretly best wrestlers in MMA, him struggling hard on that single leg is just kind of weird.
Okay, the Sonnen fight was 2 fights prior to this. It was you had Sonnen, then Nate Marquardt, and then this.
Now he's got the double leg.
Yeah. But then
that was a hard shot right in the balls. And then another one.
Oh, Jesus. And Maia keeps punching. Dude's grabbing his crotch like Michael Jackson, and Maia keeps swinging.
Mean mug Maia don't give a shit about whether you've just got hit in the balls.
Dude, it's the ref's job. It's the ref's job to stop it. Look at this shit.
Just skip. I don't know if they showed that. I think there was one before it, because he grabbed his crotch there, but there was another one right before it too. Like that was the second straight groin shot.
You know what's funny? Miller pushes against his head to Big Brother the guy, and none of those punches connect. Like only one of them kind of grazes him. Oh, Jesus. But yeah, Mazzagatti doing his thing. Steve Mazzagatti, let's fight.
Yeah, he is using his punches regularly to get inside, though, something he doesn't do nearly as much anymore.
Yeah, and something that he struggled with a lot prior to. All right, so interestingly enough, this fight was, let me see, this was about 6 or so months after the knockout loss to Nate Marquardt. Looks like, I don't know, maybe between those 2 fights, I don't know what kind of work he did between them, but he looks very different. Now, of course, Nate's a very different striker from Dan Miller, but yeah.
Well, the thing is that the Marquardt fight is
he did almost just
him
tip
doing
himself over
the
on
one thing that Nate Marquardt lives and dreams for against southpaws. Maia does within seconds of the fight starting. All what he wants to do is throw a right hand to counter a southpaw jab, and Marquardt will spend entire rounds waiting to do that if he's up against a southpaw. And then Maia came up to him and just did it immediately.
There's some of the crafty wrestling that we love.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Stick the leg out, schoolboy trip. That's cute.
He did almost fall over from a right hook there. So he tried to throw a right hook so hard that missed so badly that it had to like replant his leg.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of striking like if Jake Shields threw with authority. You know?
Jake Shields, bat. You know what I like about this, though, is that you're looking at Maia confident enough to throw some of those shots down the middle and even a few uppercuts sort of here and there.
Oh, yeah, no, he's throwing.
They're not great uppercuts, but they don't look horrible either. Like, this is a really interesting bout. And even Miller, though, looking at his striking has been something of a nice treat.
I mean, still not a good fight, but it's weird.
No.
It's weird to see Maia in this weird place of development where he's got a bunch of confidence in his hands and just enough technique to kind of, get himself in trouble against better strikers. And yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I will say this. For a kickboxing match between 2 guys better known for their grappling, it is much better than your standard grappler's kickboxing match, mostly because Maia's really like going for it out there.
This is also true. It's not a situation where they're both being tentative or they're just spamming leg kicks and, you know, doing that sort of thing, or the wasted kicks, which are one of the things that infuriate me the most. Between that and matching the opponent's strike, you know, like if somebody does a spinning kick and the guy says, "Well, I can do that too," and he just does it without thinking, you know.
Yeah,
there's not much waste here.
There's not a lot of that. Maia, you know, he just like leapt into a left hand there. He's really trying to put it on Miller with his boxing.
He is. Well, I think somebody sunk Phil's battleship there.
Hopefully he comes back. We'll see.
Yeah.
Man. Unfortunately, the other part of this is that we know we have 2 more rounds to watch this, and nobody gets knocked out. So it's
no. It's just guys throwing 1-2s at this point. But it's not bad. Okay,
Miller uncorks a 3-punch combo, none of which lands. Maia answers with a 1-2, none of which lands.
Yeah, it's like they spend so much time measuring each other out, and then now they're still. It's like all that was nullified between rounds, you know. At least with the hands, Miller's landed a few decent leg kicks here.
He's throwing a few kicks. Definitely, yeah. I don't know. That's a nice left hook from Miller.
Yeah, I don't remember who wins this fight, and I don't even like. I'll wait for the end of this. I want to see the surprise.
Right. Well, I won't spoil it then.
Maia with the nice left hand coming over. Whoa.
Hey, Phil back? Maybe back.
Kind of. He's getting in there.
Phil's back. Oh man.
Yeah.
My connection today. This truly has been most cursed. Like.
Yeah.
We've ever had this.
Hey.
So what?
It happens.
What's up?
You're missing we're watching a striking match that is just barely good enough to make it difficult to make jokes on, but still not great, which sucks. Because like
it being just like bland enough to be like, it's not good enough to be impressive, but not bad enough to be like funny.
Yeah.
Right. And they're staying active enough for you to not totally hate it. So now you're hating yourself for like, damn, you know, like I don't know. I want to really actively dislike this, but it's something that's happening. It's kind of like it's just a notch above a sparring session, I guess.
The most humor to be gotten out of this still is Damian Maia's mean mug, because he's really like, he not only did he look, you know, have the mean face walking in, but he's really like grimacing every time he throws a strike. So he's really trying to like get the anger on each of those punches.
Where are we anyway?
We are at 1minute and 45 seconds, thereabouts of the second round.
Yeah. 10:24 and counting down.
Okay. Sec.
Couple more strikes here. I've noticed there's a lot of pawing punches. Have you guys noticed that? There's more like sort of like these sideways clubs. They're not really hitting with the knuckle here.
Miller's doing this weird shoulder thing where it's like he's kind of got this idea of boxing, of like this hyper shoulder rolled boxing where he's like going like this a lot, kind of dancing his way, and it's leading him to throw a lot of like, to fire off a lot of quick like slapping punches out of it. And Maia's just his lead right hand is very much a slapping right, especially when he tries to throw hooks.
Slapping with a closed fist. Interestingly enough, it's like he's trying to break out of the habit of a Philly shell, but it just looks like, I don't know, like a Detroit handshake. I don't know what this is. This is. Oh God.
I will say though, I think Miller's won this round.
Yeah, so far it looks like he's winning this one. There's more output. You know, he's landing some more shots.
First. I think Damian Maia won the first round, but Miller's actually landing punches in this round where Maia's having more trouble with it. Okay, Maia's.
Was this
I don't know what
was this on the main card
double
or
jab
something?
was not a pretty thing. He tried to
Was
do
this on the main
like,
card of a pay-per-view?
the looping circle double jab, the Neil Magny double jab, where you're like throwing the punch and then you're looping it and throwing it again, like you're hitting the speed bag.
Yeah. How often does that work? I don't know.
I don't know either. Works if you have insanely long arms sometimes, like Neil Magny, but then Neil Magny also tends to get closed down and hit. So I don't know.
I like how the production team emphasizes strikes, between rounds, as if there were anything else. Like, they didn't go to the ground, you dirty motherfuckers. Of course you're going to show strikes. There's no need for this. You just.
So we're starting round 3 right now, Phil, if you're right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still having some. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Oh man, this is a problem. We didn't pick a bad enough fight. This fight's okay, demonstrably okay.
Mm.
That's why I was okay with picking it, because I knew it would. I mean, because it is.
Yeah.
There is like, you never want to be like, do you want to watch Damian Maia win a kind of semi-competitive functional kickboxing match with someone? That sounds boring.
No. This is the kind of fight that you have to think about when you hear Aljamain Sterling talking about starting a boxing career.
Mm.
And
did Maia just get dropped? Am I like?
He kind of went down.
Like he got dropped pretty hard by a right hand.
Yeah, I think he did.
I think he was he got hit, but he tried to parlay it to a takedown and he botched it.
But I think he went for he went down for that takedown because he got dropped.
Yeah. I don't know how. Yeah. It didn't look to me like he got that seriously hurt, but just hurt enough to reconsider.
I mean, he was really badly out of position when he got hit. He was was in a crouch, and Miller punched across the plane of his body, and it kind of looked like it hit him in the temple. So I think he actually, I know Miller isn't much of a puncher, but might have gotten slightly.
I mean, when you're way out of position, it doesn't have somebody doesn't have to be that much of a puncher.
Yeah. Especially if you're coming forward too,
Of course, it led to Maia. This is why it's like, well, why didn't we get more grappling out of this? The moment Maia wants to take it to the ground, he does, and then this is also, though, an example of why Maia ended up being such a lockdown grappler as his career went on. Because you notice, he's trying to be active and land strikes here, and Miller's just standing up immediately every time.
Look at that. Oh, geez. He snags one leg, and then he grabs the opposite ankle, and that was smooth. I like that. But the weird thing is he's trying to pass guard. Doesn't seem to be working. Miller keeps the overhook. And now they still end up in this thing where Maia tries to stack and nail some short punches or something, but that's not. This is like the third time this has happened.
Tuck his foot behind a little further, he just grabbed Miller's ankle and tucked it up further up his back. I have no idea why he did that.
Maybe he thought he could pummel under for an over-under, being really ambitious or something. I don't know.
It was weird. I didn't even know. I'd never seen it before or anything like it, but he just grabbed Miller's foot behind his back and moved it a little further up.
But Miller, to his credit, I mean, he keeps pressing himself up against the cage, but sitting up against it. And now it sort of takes away some of what Maia's been really angling for. You still can't get side control.
You can see some of Maia's adaptions that his anti-MMA fighter adaptions that he'd keep building over time here. That way that he tripods on his forehead in order to shift his hips over the guard. And as you might notice, it's got a useful bonus there that if they try and buck out using their head, they get head butted, and it's not his fault. Because you saw Miller tried to struggle out when he was against the cage and just kind of ended up bashing his head.
Well, this is the first of these situations so far that Miller isn't able to spring back up. And now, yeah, now it's just...
Now it's just Maia sort of, landing a lot of little punches, kind of cruising on him.
Look at Joe Silva's impish grin in the back. I love that. I miss that guy for some reason. Just his reactions to the sensational shit that would happen were the best. Especially that Eric Silva knockout.
From a fan perspective, too, he also seems to have been a very, fan-friendly, contrling force in the company.
Yeah. Look at Miller. Look at Miller trying to lock up the triangle here.
Fighters miserable in order to make fans happy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of it, too. Wow. Maia used that dad strength to pop back out of that triangle attempt, and now we're back where we were before with the sort of open guard, weird punches and punches.
I mean, so Miller had a chance to win this. Obviously, he knocked Maia down, and I thought he took round 2, but it's a solid, reasonable Maia performance. It actually wasn't all kickback boxing either. Once Maia got hurt in round 3, he actually went and put on the takedown top control clinic.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said earlier, they might have gotten I'm not sure whether it's coming through my connection, man. That might so bad, but you can see the pieces of what Maia was building here.
Yep.
His kickboxing gave him that pressure footwork that he learned later on. You can see how he can't. He's learning wrestling, but he's still focusing on the double. Whereas later on he'd start. Later on, if Maia's in that position, he's pulling out the single and running the pipe. He's not locking up a double in that kind of same kind of way anymore. You see all the bits, and that was interesting for that perspective. He's test driving what he would build later.
All right, well, they can't all be bad, I guess.
It's still pretty bland.
Yeah. The highly mediocre MMA show doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
We need to give people every flavor of bad MMA.
It's true.
And sometimes that flavor is just with and it's just the most, and a glass of water.
Yeah. This is just
not horrific.
Yeah, it's just meh.
There.
Yeah. What flavor is it? I don't know.
It's nobody cares flavor.
Yeah. No, but it is interesting because now, I mean, more than anything, it just serves as what this fight serves as more than anything is just a chance to see the building blocks that Maia would use to change things up and become a future title contender again after that weird Anderson Silva fight. So, actually, hold on a second. Well, Anderson Silva was after this, but you know what I mean. It as far as being able to draw from that experience and become much more complete,
And since this is Angry Maia, this is probably including a really hardcore call out too that we're not hearing right now, where he's just swearing at people and going full angry, really letting the rage out there, and we're not getting a chance to hear it.
I guess that's that Linkin Park influence, like you guys mentioned. Right. Yeah, that's what it does.
That bad boy in him. Let's move on to the final fight now. Antonio Rogério Nogueira versus Rashad Evans, UFC 156. Man, this is already... I'm feeling that dread. Especially, not having a fight. I think the previous fight being kind of mediocre has really built this a little more, because usually if I'm already in this state of well, it's terrible, but let's get through it. Now I'm well, it was okay, and it's going to get worse. So, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Was this... So, am I correct? This fight was in 2014?
I believe so.
Does it feel like it's been longer or shorter? I feel like this fight has been like 10 years ago now.
Yeah, it feels like that. I would agree.
It's just the fact that was it was 3 years ago, and everyone was just like, "Oh, he's gonna get destroyed."
Yeah.
This was 4 years ago, actually.
Yeah.
Which is sadder still.
And he's been fighting for then, and like there hasn't been much in that time period that's made you happy about seeing either Nogueira brother fighting.
No,
it's not like there was a huge resurgence after this fight.
No.
I mean, at least Big Nog. I think after this was around the time that Big Nog knocked out Schaub, or
yeah, and then
was that before? Oh, did he?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought
he never
retired
actually fought again
recently.
after that.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
No, never fought again.
Okay.
Not one.
Okay, all right. Never again. I got it. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm there. God.
In fact,
Tell you what, though, I mean, there's so many great things that could be said about Big Nog, and then like not to knock his younger brother, but it's like, so much so that there have been at least 2 or 3 points in my life where I've forgotten that Big Nog has a brother. Like literally forgotten. Like, wait, who? Huh? What? Oh, that's right. He's got a brother that fights, because he was always injured and always. So it's like that's bullshit. I don't know why this.
Lil Nog's career is definitely like, it includes a few brilliant highlights, and then it's just this long span of like action fighter cred that has not been recaptured.
No.
Years and years of, will this be another exciting Nogueira fight like that one fight he had against Shogun in 2007, or will this just be another Nogueira Lil Nog fight?
I'm trying to remember. Wasn't Lil Nog? Hang on a second. You know what? I think I have it here. Yeah, he repped Brazil for the Pan American Games, won bronze.
Yeah, in boxing.
And he won the South American Games in 2006. Also, he got gold in that one for boxing. But it never – is it just me, or did it never really translate in MMA to like –
I mean, it was the eternal Lil Nog talking point for all commentary on all of his fights ever. It was forever. He was a brilliant amateur boxer, and he's got great hands.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, it's...
There was that... Remember when he first debuted in the UFC, and he, like, knocked out Louis
Kane?
Everyone was pretty high on Kane?
Kane?
Yeah. Pretty high on Kane, because he could do a bunch of different things, and then people sort of realized afterwards that he sucked. He just couldn't see punches from southpaws for whatever reason. Like, he would just lose to, like, he was even worse against them than Nate Marquardt was. Because he would just get hit by every left hand that got thrown at him ever. The Bulgarian dude, Stanislav Nedkov.
Oh, yeah.
Like when Nogueira just came out and just dunked on him, everyone was like, "Wow, he's one of the greatest boxers to step foot in the octagon."
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this guy go and fight whoever was champion at the time.
It's also hard. It's hard to say that Lil Nog's boxing didn't translate, because it's literally all he did. So it's like, I mean, it was his whole game. But no, I mean, there's a reason that he never became a superstar fighter, and it's because he was a not great boxer who only boxed.
Mm-hmm. Hey, shout out to Kim Winslow too, man, with that sharp ass chin of hers. You ever see those pictures of the Disney cosplay thing where she dressed up as Disney princesses? You guys had to have seen that, right?
I believe I have, but it's been a while.
Yeah. Now, you don't need to go back to it. It's not essential viewing.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's not one of those things that I really revisit or have stored away in my mind to dredge up when the time counts.
Nah, you'll be fine without. You can just watch Blade Runner again. You'll be fine. Yeah. Which, by the way, I really hope the sequel doesn't suck, so you don't have, for your sake mostly.
All the reviews it's getting right now are really like transcendentally good, but that doesn't mean anything because like I feel like that was how it was with the first wave of new Star Wars films as well.
Yeah.
And
who knows?
That's exactly been my reaction to it as well.
I will see the new Blade Runner, but I'm just trying to ignore everything about it. That's really all I'm trying to do.
I'm not going to watch it until the hype dies down, and then I can appreciate it for what it is, and then say, whether or not.
I might see it before the hype dies down, but it'll be dependent on people I know actually going out and being like, no, you need to see this. It's really good.
Or before they spoil the fuck out of it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't care about spoilers so much, but
I just basically have two major worries. That it'll have too much going on in it. They'll try and cram too much into it, and that will really annoy me.
Yeah,
those are just my two major.
Or that they'll do something with like the whole like replicant idea that just sort of really pisses it away.
Yeah, but what I'm really mostly worried about is all the retinkering that Ridley Scott's done with the film, with the reissuing over and over, the director's cut, the definitive director's cut. So it's like, I don't know what exactly I'm supposed to carry over from the first and how that, if that at all might affect what I'm going to see.
Oh, I don't know. That doesn't bother me. I've never really found any problems with the changes over the years.
Yeah.
But Rashad, man, this is like Rashad has entered this weird. He entered this weird place so long ago because like this fight is like 4 years ago, where he looks right and he says all the right stuff. Going into his fights, like he looks, in perfect shape. He's talking good. He's moving. He looks relaxed, and then he just goes out and does nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, and with all the potential that you had, because back then you look at what the Black Zillions were doing and how they had, I think Mario Sperry was the head coach at that time, so that was kind of like a big thing that people were kind of set some higher expectations. Hooft was part of the team. Spong had already joined the team, so there was a lot of there was a lot of anticipation to see how this group was going to work together and hopefully elevate each other. But with Rashad, it didn't, for whatever reason, or for multiple reasons. I don't know.
Well, it's also kind of a weird thing, too, where, like, what it really... Rashad's a great example of what you get when a fighter... What the difference is when a fighter really peaks in their career. Because he really wasn't, like, a vastly different paced fighter from the beginning to the end.
Right.
It's just that when he was at the peak of his abilities, even at that pace, it made him a very good, difficult fighter to beat who could do really good things, who could land hard punches, who could take people down and use a really powerful wrestling game and a powerful striking game to his advantages in those instances. But before he had it technically perfect, there were a lot of people who just thought that Rashad was like the most boring fighter to watch ever. And then after
I basically...
You go ahead.
Wait. I kind of feel like Rashad's problem in the Black Zillions was that he was one of the founders, and thus he didn't have anyone just telling him what to do.
Yeah, it could
like
be.
He was running his own camps and doing his own thing, and I don't think that's actually good for him, because his natural style is, because he's sort of confident that he can develop this, slick, can't be hit style, which he doesn't really have.
Yeah.
Like, that it doesn't actually work. It's just, because I think a lot of the time people say that like the hardest thing in combat sports is to learn how to counter. And I never really felt like that's true. I think the hardest thing to learn how to do is to lead. And it's to lead safely, is to be able to throw things out there without you, and to have the confidence that when you throw that you're in position to not have stuff come back at you. And that's why a lot of people go down these kind of pathways where they just learn to counter. And then they get into situations where a guy won't throw anything at them. Like, Rashad is just totally stuck in this fight, spoiler warning. He's just for the counter, just won't do anything else.
God, Rashad is really master of all of the huge amounts of body movement that lead to absolutely nothing, isn't he?
Here we go. Feint-a-mania.
He's got the wide stance. He's got the feet jumping and the shoulders going. And you're like, here it comes. Here it comes. And you're just saying that for like 25 minutes.
Yeah, I always wondered why his leg kicks look so ugly. He just sort of like throws his thigh out there and lets his calf, his bottom part of the leg follow, but he doesn't retract it. It just sort of goes out there. It doesn't really. Maybe it sort of smacks the other guy's leg a little bit, but then that's it. It's more like a matter of gauging distance. There's a body kick or something.
Well, maybe just
if Fight Metric had a patty cake counter for this fight, it would have been broken.
Yeah,
Rashad is going to reach out and touch Lil Nog's hand like literally like 1,000 times over the course of this fight.
Yeah, Fight Metric would have to close that category, and if you ever try to click on that link, you just get the frowny face emoji.
Actually, I think what you really find too is if you slow this video down, like if they had like the the super fast HD cameras on this, you would actually see Rashad like throw his hands out there and go like that several times before between each strike.
Fast.
He's like, but it's not. He's not even trying. It's not so much that he's trying to parry the lead hand of Nogueira. It's more he's reaching out to touch it. I get. It's not even. What is he doing? He's not exactly setting a hand trap. He's not batting it down. He's touching it and then retracting. And then there you go. So again, he throws, but he cancels. He chambers his hand again, and it just.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is that led him to be so between the John Jones fight and this, where he got so gun shy. It kind of hurts to watch, man.
It's just. The thing is, to me, it's just who Rashad is. Like it's not even the fact of him being gun shy, because the first round of the Machida fight is exactly this. It's exactly this. Is that he does nothing. And then the thing is, Machida's totally fine and much better at doing this than he is. So Machida just does like one body kick and wins the round. And then the next round, Rashad's like, oh, well, maybe I better try fight him. And then he just runs out and Machida just blunks him.
Yeah, he fell into that trap.
He just can't lead. He's just never been able to lead at all.
Yeah,
like he's just waiting for that big right hand.
And that's why I say
this should be an object lesson for Tyron Woodley, in that this is what can happen.
It's also, I think, it's a good example. Like I say, it's a good example of like seeing the arc of a career, where you get to see like how that can be functional, and like as somebody gets more experience and reaches their physical prime, a peak functionality, and then as it keeps continuing and the physical side of it declines, where you just fade out into the point that you're getting beat up by Dan Kelly.
Yeah.
I
mean, when you get to a point where a guy like Dan Kelly, who's essentially, his knees are essentially rust buckets by his own admission, but his striking style and his movement are enough to fluster you just based on how your styles work, then it's not so much an athleticism drop off. It's just maybe this is who you always were.
It's an athleticism drop off that, like, the athleticism dropping off doesn't necessarily. It's not like my athleticism dropped off and I can't physically compete with these people. It's the athleticism drops off, and I can't do the things I want to do in the way I want to do them anymore. I'm no longer comfortable doing things that I used to do. I mean, it's like what we see with Josh Berkman, where you see him out there and it's not like, oh, Josh Berkman is way slower than he used to be. He looks fine. He looks like he moves fine, but he can't pull the trigger at all anymore.
Right.
Like, he just does not have the faith in his ability to pull the trigger, and that's got to be in part a physical decline. Like, it has to be.
Yeah, in part, but I mean,
failing to pull the trigger is a lot of it is mental decline. I mean, it's that I think it's that Rashad has ossified in. Rashad just ossifies into a very good, like, and it works. I mean, it is admittedly one that only really works with top shelf athleticism. You know.
Yeah.
So, like, slight declines do hurt him a lot.
Exactly.
But it's also just the fact that that someone who'd learned a better style wouldn't be affected that, like.
Well, sure.
And he even then.
But and that's why I'm saying that kind of fighter
checkmated by people that he athletically outclasses.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of why I'm saying is that kind of fighter really helps expose that, like, the career arc decline better, because there's so little adjustment and there's so little ability to adjust to losing tools. You know? Like, any tool starts to drop away and suddenly nothing works anymore. Like, they don't look like they can't fight. They don't look like they aren't the same person anymore. They look like they are the same fighter they were 5 years ago, but nothing about their style works at all. You know? And yeah, I mean, I will give Rashad credit. He did lead a few times in that last round. He really does get defensively. It is this thing, like, all that movement and all of that bouncing and all the feinting. And then when he does lead, he just squares right up in front of the person, head on line, and just throws a couple of power hooks.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's managed to land a few body kicks, but for some reason I don't seem to remember the first time around.
Yeah. No, he's landed a few shots. This isn't, he's definitely working so far in this fight.
I'm trying to see what it is that Nog did to win this fight, because I'm not seeing as much activity that would warrant for him to win a round necessarily, at least not yet. This is only round 2, so I don't know. We're probably going to see it at some point.
It is interesting because, so far, Rashad has done okay with the fight in front of him. He just got hit hard with the left hand there.
It's also because he was a plus. He was like a 500 favorite in this fight.
Yeah. So there's a lot of expectation that he was just going to go out and just run Nogueira over.
Would you guys have given?
He had that win over Kane, and then he had that terrible split decision against, like, Jason Brills. Consistently underwhelmed. It was just like, Rashad's just going to run over him. He's going to ground and pound, like, 2 rounds. And then this.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Vic?
No, I'm not sure I remember right now, actually. No, you know what? I think it's Rashad's what do you call that? Oh shit, wait a minute. Okay, I just had a bit of stutter here on my connection. Never mind.
All right.
Yeah.
So, man, this is
a bad one.
Yeah, it's bad.
It is just weird to see, like, how much Rashad moves for every strike thrown. Like, if you count the number of times that his hands or his feet move before he actually throws a punch, it's just kind of like, it's kind of absurd.
It is. It's very absurd. And that's what makes it such a frustrating watch, is that both of these guys are just, again, well, more so Rashad than anyone else, because he's the one doing most of the tapping that we've already covered. But again, look, it's a decent enough hook. just not really seeing that Nogueira's doing that much better in this fight.
No, he's not.
He's definitely winning this round. And a couple
Nogueira
of
is
flurries,
definitely winning this round,
and Shard is starting to look upset.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice body kick and a nice left hand from Lil Nog, and then that is not that was
Nogueira was ready for that.
Nogueira was ready for that, but Rashad really, I don't know. It was kind of surprising how much he got sprawled on there. Like he tried to turn the corner and just could not.
Yeah, he didn't even. It's not like he telegraphed it as much, but he did kind of. It did come from a little too far.
That may be. It's just, yeah.
One of the things about both Lil Nog and Shogun that people slightly underrate is that they became much better. Like, even though they got old and crappy in a bunch of, significant ways, they became much better defensive wrestlers after a short while in the UFC.
It's true, yeah.
You remember how terrible they used to be at defending takedowns, both of them.
Yeah.
Especially.
And so they got put up against guys like Lil Nog still, because even at his advanced age, because he just had the basic takedown defense to stop Cummins' shots, and then Cummins is still, one of the worst strikers in the modern UFC.
Yeah. I can never think of that fight without thinking of Cummins being like, I want to go out there and like test my boxing and really knock, show this guy that I can strike with him. And I'm like, man,
yeah.
Of all
boxing, and he got an
F,
just like pretty much every time he tested his boxing, apart from when he used it against Gian Vellante.
Yeah. Gian Vellante, who was just
watching at some point.
The one guy who's probably more hand and foot slow than him.
Well, Vellante is just the, like, I don't know.
Hey.
So much going on with Gian Vellante. Like,
hey, you watch your mouth when you talk about the guy Gian Vellante. He's a ranked UFC fighter. You hear me? I know. But Pat Cummins.
There are a lot of fighters that I can get a good beat on without too much trouble. Gian Vellante is one where I'm just like, what goes on in your head? Like, how does this all work?
It's not just him. I mean, when you realize that he's Chris Weidman's main sparring partner most of the time, and then you wonder why Weidman's had such a noticeable decline, you go, well, it can't just be injuries. Oh, right. Like there's something there. I have to think that there's got to be a component there that just doesn't that can't continue to be a fixture in your environment.
Gian Vellante is the uncontrolled part of Chris Weidman's brain. As discussed,
it's like the Cronenberg classic, The Brood. He gave birth to his own id, and it became
exactly. That's Gian Vellante, yeah.
There you go. And there's I forgot the spoiler alert, but whatever. Fuck it. It's Cronenberg. You should have watched it anyway. Jesus, but no, Pat Cummins, like of all people, you're right. I mean, he said that he wanted to test his striking against Lil Nog.
He's like, I'm gonna prove to people that I can strike with this guy and go
against that guy. Wow, wrong neighborhood, motherfucker.
Well, it's just like of all the fights that you should really like. It's not that that Lil Nog can't be beaten on the feet, but it's like of all the guys that you would want to just take down and work over, like all he does is box. It'd be like being like, I want to go out there and I'm going to fight Fabio Maldonado and I'm going to prove that I can outbox Fabio Maldonado. It's like, why?
Well, I mean, you could, but you're not going to take more shots than he can. That's just, we're going to see who can have more durability.
That the way you beat Fabio Maldonado.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, I am so pissed off we never got Patrick Cummins, Fabio Maldonado.
Yeah. Oh. Well, you know what? Fabio's still fighting.
Like five round main event. Prime Fabio Maldonado. Like
Fabio's still winning. You might just get your wish, just not in the form you'd hoped.
He's done. We had this discussion the other. I think Stipe kind of broke him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's just not the same dude anymore.
Hey, he beat Fedor
too much. He's no longer like the super.
Fabio Maldonado. Prime Maldonado versus Prime Cummins is right up there with prime Krylov, prime Latifi for fights that I would just love to have.
Yeah, that is a fucking dream fight.
We should say
this one.
We should say though, at this round, we've seen Nogueira open up a lot more, landing some body kicks, much more confident in his approach and how he comes in to start striking. Definitely not really respecting any of Rashad's arsenal at all. Like, you just see how he's coming in. Oh, there's the eye poke in slow mo. And even with the eye poke, he dodged that follow up left hand. That's
and he knows, like, Rashad is really only chambering the right hand to throw with any power. The left is just kind of out there. So
yeah,
and there's Kevin James.
At that point, it's not that hard for him to get a reasonable read on it.
There's the old version of Kevin James.
Can you imagine how badly Rashad could have shocked people in like once every chambered right hand attempts if he just like tried to sneak a left hand around there? How reliant on his right hand he is.
That's called the entirety of Jimmy Manua's fighting career. Right there.
If you combined, imagine if you could do like one of those Dragon Ball Z things and combine the two. Like, one guy's only got a left hand, and the other one's only got a right hand. And you bring them together, and you got a guy who can't throw either punch because you got the wrong side.
Yeah,
you got even was right hand and Rashad's left doesn't do anything for the whole fight.
They do the Dragon Ball fusion thing, and then they point fingers to find out which of the two sides failed the USADA drug test after. There's Rashad doing much more of the touching his face and then going in.
Yeah.
Trying for a body.
You know what? You know, in the third round of Rashad's fight against Rashad has the best technical striking I've ever seen from Sugar Rashad Evans. And I'm not joking.
I'm sorry. Against who was this?
Kelly.
Okay.
Oh, Dan Kelly. Yeah.
In the third round, if you actually watch it, like, Rashad starts throwing lead jabs. He starts throwing combination punches. He starts standing in the pocket. He like slips his head offline. It's like, I was looking and I was like, I bet Rashad do this like a reasonable amount of the time in training. Only ever seen in one round against a fight against a hugely old guy, which you're guaranteed to lose because you're down 2 rounds. So it's completely worthless and no one will ever remember it. But it was kind of like, it was both sad and kind of like, good. He could strike. Like, he could actually, like, Rashad could actually strike when he was mad enough with himself and, like, you know, and kind of like, oh, this is my last chance. A part of him that could do it, but instead he just gets stuck into just waiting for that goddamn right hand.
Yeah, Lil Nog's really feeling himself out there right now at the end of this round 3. Like, he came into the step knee to the gut. He's just kind of throwing things out there. No real worry at all about what's happening coming back at him.
Yeah, he's comfortable enough that he feels like, I mean, he's even moved straight back on a few of these. Like, he's not really worried about any follow-ups. He's not really, you know, he's not angling to the side after any of these failed attempts from Rashad. So just, yeah, now we got the heavy clinch, swinging for the fences. It's over.
Yeah.
Presentation. Everybody raise your arms. No. Yeah, I guess.
Not a lopsided loss for Rashad, but definitely portends the slide to come. Yeah. Where he just worked that much less hard in fights following.
It wasn't lopsided, but it was shocking.
Yeah.
It was genuinely shocking to see Rashad look that neutralized by at this stage distinctly visibly slower than him. Like, Rashad is not particular at this point. It just shows like he's been using a very style, and even massive physical advantages can't overcome it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you guys this, and I'm hoping to hear from both of you. Do you think this is as much? Do you think this is more a case of Rashad losing or Nogueira doing enough to win? Which of the two would you be more? Which of the two sides would you lean more towards?
Oh, I would lean more towards Rashad losing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like Nogueira didn't show up with anything that you don't expect out of a Nogueira fight, out of a Lil Nog fight. Like, this isn't, he didn't come out and look, you weren't watching him fight here and you're like, oh man, Lil Nog is tearing shit up out there. Have you ever seen him look that good? Like, that is not what's happening there. It's more like,
I'll say one thing. I'll say one thing. His defensive wrestling.
Yeah.
Improved out of sight in the UFC. He couldn't, it was not like in the Brills fight was like, oh man, is going to struggle even with like lower end light heavyweight UFC wrestlers. And then after then, it was just a factor. He came up against Cummings and even Ortiz, who is still like a good functional, better than anything much like Cummings. Similar, but. He just beat all of them relatively handily. Like that was, I guess, that was the difference maker for Lil Nog. But even that, it was definitely just the fact that Rashad was like Rashad's if he doesn't change his style, and he didn't.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
He basically he basically became a mirror back to what you could throw at him with, so if you came at him with a lot of aggression, if you tried to throw volume against him, like, if you tried to bum rush him like Chael did, he could just wreck you.
Right.
Like Phil Davis tried to kind of run a sort of aggressive outside game on him, and Rashad just beat the shit out of him. But if you just hung back and didn't do anything, that's a terrible flaw to have. Is if the guy doesn't do anything, you're going to be stuck in an incredibly slow-paced fight against him.
Yeah.
Flip fight.
No, it's definitely. I think it's a more of an exposing of Rashad here that like that flaw exists, and here you're seeing it like that flaw exists to a point that a good, functional, technically reasonable fighter who's a much lesser athlete can absolutely exploit it at the height of your career. Where it's not, eventually we've seen it exist to the point that literally anyone who shows up and is trained and in shape can exploit it. But at this point, this is kind of like the first, reasonably decent fighters are going to be able to beat you regularly doing just like not hanging back and making you fight a slow-paced fight.
Right. Yeah. Oh, well. And the thing is that the worst thing about it is watching all this and thinking, Rashad says he's not done yet. He wants more. Okay.
He's talking about coming back to 205 now, to light heavyweight. It's just like, man, it took you like 5 years to get to middleweight, and you suck there, and it's all for the same reasons that things were not going well at light heavyweight before you dropped, and now you're going to go back to light heavyweight, and that's not going to solve any problems at all.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like, Sam Alvey's coasting on you. Going and fighting bigger dudes is not going to be your solution.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Indeed. On Phil's back for the end, I think. On that note, we're going to close out the show. You can find me on Twitter at TheZaneSimon. You can find Phil on Twitter at EvilGregJackson. You can find Vic on Twitter at VicMRodriguez. You can find all three of us over at BloodyElbow.com. You can, in our various roles, capacities, whatever we're doing over there. You can find our show on YouTube at MMANation.com, DOTCOM, all spelled out. That's where we have all the latest Buddy Elbow shows, videos, news, analysis, all that stuff we do week in, week out. Give us a like over there. It's a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. You know, all that stuff helps us a ton. And we will be back next week for UFC 216 and Kevin Lee versus Tony Ferguson versus Fabricio Verdum in a triangle homophobic slur match.
Yes. And
Demetrius Johnson looking to break his Anderson Silva's title defense record against Ray Borg in a moment for the record books that only Demetrius Johnson seems to care about at this point. So
yeah,
we'll have all our normal shows for that: Heavy Hands, Knuckle Up, If I Did It, Care Don't Care, Vivisection, all that good stuff. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.